光は聖火より生まれ、女神の力は信仰により不滅となる。さあ、これからはこのエルマがご一緒します。女神様の名において、炎の輝きよ、私の刃となれ。
おお、なんと美しい。感動的な死のコンセプト、ケルティスにございます。多少は名の知れた画角でも申しましょう。死と鮮血をもってこの儚い平和を謳歌しようではありませんか。
私はみんなの幸せを、笑顔を守りたい。でも近づいちゃダメよ、不幸になるわ。
お前は聖女なんかじゃない。あいつは闇の力を持っているぞ。
そんな、違う、私は。
そうだ、光の女神はお前のことなどとうに見捨てたのだ。そのような愚かなありさまは捨て去れ。ボーゼルの印を持つ者よ、まさか本当に混沌の力に抗えるとでも思っていたのか。甘いな。
闇に落ちることが私の運命なら、どうやって止めればいいの？
何があっても俺がお前を守る。俺とお前との約束だ。
まさかありえん。
お兄ちゃん、
全部終わったよ、リコ。これでお前もなりたかった自分に。
私は必ず抗います。いつかきっとまた会えるよね、お兄ちゃん。私は進む。私自身の道を。
Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. I know it's been a long time since we made any videos. I've been kind of busy, and I've honestly haven't even been playing the game that much, and I died horribly in the playoffs very quickly. And I have Loomis with me here again today. Thanks for coming again, Loomis.
Hey, what's up, VLR and people watching?
I haven't been paying attention to the playoffs at all. I might watch them later. How have you been doing?
I got to top 64.
Ooh, nice. Alright, so today we're actually going to be talking about two patches at once, which is something I avoid doing, but I'm pretty behind on the video, so I figured, why not talk about both these patches at once. So we'll see how that shakes out. So today I'm going to be talking about 4 characters, so Elma, Kertesz, Emperor Loviner, and Saint of the Ark. A lot of really interesting characters being added. So I guess let's not waste any time. We can just jump right into it. We can start by talking about Elma. Elma is kind of long awaited for me because I've been waiting for them to add Elma for a while. She was the last protagonist from the mainline games, or I guess or the proper, quote-unquote proper games. And I gotta say I'm pretty disappointed by Elma. Elma, she's not bad. Healers in general it's pretty hard to make them bad. But compared to the 3 core healers, which I think are Rosenseal, Liana, and Florentia, I'd say Elma is definitely way below them, and I'd actually put her below Sissi White as well, and possibly even Imelda or Tiaras, depending on what you're trying to do. Elma is kind of like a more defensive healer, so she kind of has like this weird gimmick with a gospel-like spell where she reflects debuffs instead of just preventing them. One thing worth noting about this reflect spell she has, it is 3 separate buffs, because I guess they wanted to simulate the same effect as Gospel, where it has 3 separate buffs in case you start getting dispelled by a bunch of things. So it actually does have 3 separate buffs. One of the buffs gives you immunity to debuffs, one of the buffs says reflect debuffs, and one of the buffs says, fixed damage before you get hit or something like that. Aside from that, Elma's kit is kind of weird. It's just like, it seems like a weird mishmash of a bunch of different healers at once. She does have a spell that lets you teleport someone to her, which can be pretty interesting. But I don't think, I think it's a little bit too reactive. And finally, she does have, a summon, which is kind of like a mini juggler, I guess. It can cast a heal spell itself, so you can have, Elma cast a heal spell and then have the summon cast a heal spell. So, and it also heals people after taking damage, kind of like juggler. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I feel like she's like this weird mishmash of a bunch of different healers that we've had up to this point, which comes together to be a pretty defensive healer, which is kind of sort of useful, but I kind of feel like she's just such a big step below all the other big healers we have right now.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, I think she's kind of almost like a more modern SSR version of Close, almost, or Chloe. Mm-hmm. In a sense, and I think on the good side, she does provide some unique things that you can't find with other units, so that's generally a good thing, but I don't know if it moves the needle enough, and I would agree with how you've tiered the healers. I think I'd say that, generally speaking, Tiaris is just better, and I would actually even say something like an Iris is debatably better, but, I think that one depends on how you want to set up your defense, because I think they do different things better than each other.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of hard to compare because Tiaris, Imelda, and Iris, those are the super aggro healers, right? And Elma is very clearly set up to not be one of those. She's very defensive. She does a decent amount of dispels. She can heal multiple times in one turn using her summon. She can be like juggler and heal people after an AoE, and she can even bring someone back after attacking. But I don't know how useful that will be. I mean, that's one of the most unique things she has. But the thing is usually if you send someone in like that, they're probably gonna die. I don't know if there's gonna be a situation where Elma can actually save someone using this.
I mean, honestly, if you want to try to implement that type of play, just use Weiler. He's very superior at that. I do think that Elma's better against, in a more tanky comp and against debuffs than a Weiler. But yeah, no, I mean, that skill in particular, this is just use Tack Retreat and, have the 3C and, actually have units survive. I would agree. It's a little tough to see how generally viable the recall is, especially on a single unit.
The big difference between this and Tack Retreat, I guess, is that I believe this has a larger range than Tack Retreat, even with Wheeler's increased assist skill range, and this can be used on units that are not damaged for whatever worth that might be.
True.
Yeah, that's about it. Aside from that, she has some really strange skills. So they gave her a bunch of attack skills, like the Valkyrie style skills. They gave her Holy Word and Discipline and even Holy Light. I don't know what they were going for with this, because it's not like she has an offensive soldier spread. I kind of figured they would have done something like that if they wanted her to be sort of a half attacker, but they didn't do that.
Yeah, and the stats just don't back it up either. That's just completely unviable.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit confused. It's like they were thinking about doing that, and then they just decided halfway through development, they're just oh, whatever, just make her an actual healer. They forgot to swap the heals back out around or whatever. Yeah, and that's really all I have to say. She's not a very interesting character, and I think people haven't really been seeing her very much. She's been seen in a couple more tanky boxes, and she's pretty good at that.
I mean, I would say that it's just kind of she has a bunch of things that are all generally considered good, but you only have 15 slots in an Apex box, and you can just bring units that have more value. So obviously there's healers, but the thing her candle has the magic DR, which is good, but if you're only using it for that, you could bring something I think the easiest comparable obviously is Christiane, but even a Luna, Luna, I would say has a more versatile kit that would be generally useful than Elma. Just if you're comparing those two.
Yeah, I guess the only thing to say is that she has very different factions than those two characters. That's the only thing worth mentioning, I guess.
True.
I don't believe the Holy Candle's magic defense aura. I don't believe that stacks with whatever Christiane has.
It shouldn't, because we know that Luna and Christiane don't stack, so I'd be very surprised if it doesn't if it's stacked.
Yeah. I mean, it is nice to have multiple options for that in a box sometimes. Like, if you decide, because, if somebody's trying to attack you with magic, they might just ban Luna. And if you have multiple options for that, then that can be useful. But yeah, like, I've tried playing some more defensive boxes recently. Like, it just doesn't work that well anymore. And I've also found that trying to go for, like, gospel-type comps, like, well, Kruger gives you a really hard time, because sometimes Kruger just, like, removes the debuff immunity, and it's just like, and then you hate life. And yeah, this is especially true with the case that Elma was added alongside Kertesz, which I guess we can just jump straight to talking about Kertesz, because Kertesz, like, is another debuff, like, crazy debuff character, and I think a lot of people have compared him to, like, Kruger. Yeah, I would say he's kind of like a combination of Kruger and Gizarov almost.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. So he has like, he has like some end of turn skills that can mark enemies. And then he can do like up to 40% extra damage as long as they're just matching class type. He can morph his class type to an ally's class type and then attack. And then he does 40% extra damage to enemies of the same class type, which is kind of unwieldy, to be fair, but that's still really, really strong. And Kruger sometimes gets the downside of, if you can't get your debuffs to stick enough, he won't be able to stack up his talent that much. But Kertesz doesn't have that problem. As long as you pick allies that are appropriate, you just need to match your class type with whatever the enemy is, and you'll do a lot of damage with them.
Plus he can have two puppets. Like it's like yes. we really needed a second Kruger, so I'm really happy that this came out.
Yeah, and the puppet itself actually does have skills, or like it has two passives. One of them says attacks ignore guard, and it attacks first. And the other passive says after taking action, it will decrease one random stat of enemies within 2 blocks by 20% for 1 turn. So these puppets aren't just like, aside from just being like having pretty good stats, because they are like on the level of like Gizarov's constructs basically, they're also just annoying in general because they can pierce guard and they just standing around will debuff you, so it's just like more debuffs.
Yeah, plus like, considering that he can change his own class, it does make the demon Kertesz viable. And now you have the extra stats, and you have this, because what is he, base 588, so he's almost the highest into the game. And then you just have these puppets who can run around and have up to 150% of that, and they can just ignore guard.
I would say he isn't as tanky as Kruger in the sense that he doesn't have that shield skill. I guess that's the biggest difference here.
Yeah, he has higher defensive bases though, I think.
Yeah, but I don't know how much that actually matters these days, because like the defensive bases, I don't know, like I feel like it's pretty easy to break through that nowadays.
Well, so I mean, even with Kruger, because there's a number of things I can live through with without even using shield, and just having the higher bases on that. Like, he can put on Lava Titans, he can do things like I think you could actually make a reasonably, not totally Kyra proof Kertesz, but like that type of defense. Like, you can avoid a lot of like Kyras and the units of that type. So I think he's actually pretty bulky. The fact that he gets the MDF ignore on Soul Steel too, like he didn't need it.
Yeah, it's like, comparing Kertesz with Elma, it's like they add a debuff character and a debuff prevention character at the same time is what I feel like. And it's like, it just feels like every time they do this, the debuff character is far and away way better.
Yeah, and it's not even close. And Kertesz has crazy heart bonds too. Like he has, in Demon, it's minus 10% physical damage when forced into battle. So any assassins, he gets another 10% DR. And then when he's attacking, he gets just 10% unconditional damage.
Yeah. Also, I guess a lot of people have been mentioning this, and I guess people have already experienced it if you've been watching Chinese games, is that he's like the new annoying character in terms of voice lines. Yes, because he does like 3 voice lines in a turn, because every time he...
Oh, wait, no. He does his... the class change is an act again.
Oh, right, that's what it was. Yeah, he class change. He'll play a voice line. He'll use his attack, play a voice line, and then he'll use his end of turn skill, and he'll play a voice line. And his voice lines are pretty funny. I find his voice hilarious. Some people find it really, really annoying. I just laugh every time I hear Kertesz.
I mean, yeah, like, cause like I heard people talking about it, so like I looked it up and I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Like I didn't think it was like particularly annoying or anything, but I was like, oh, okay.
He sort of fits a specific archetype from anime, where he's obsessed with things that are beautiful, kind of like Oliver from Fire Emblem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Kertesz. I mean, I really have nothing to say because everything people have said before about Kruger and in some part about Gizaroff, like that pretty much all applies to Kertesz, pretty much. And there's really not a whole lot. I guess that's one thing is just like there's not a whole lot new about this character. It's just like Elma.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically Kruger if Kruger had higher bases and could move 3 after the act again instead of 2.
Yeah.
And had summons.
Yeah, it's a tried and true combination, and like characters like this will always be good, I think. There wasn't a whole lot to say about the Elma and Kertesz, but I think there's a little bit more to say about the 2 characters they added after that, which is Emperor Loviner and Saint of the Ark. So I guess we could start by talking about Emperor Loviner. I kind of lost hope that they would ever add a protagonist buffer, because I was under the impression that, okay, maybe they're just trying to keep like a theme here where like Matthew is the only protagonist buffer because that makes sense. I guess they just decided to throw that out. They're just like, whatever, we'll just randomly give it to Ares here. So Emperor Loviner is a protagonist faction buffer. He is also a more of a support character, I guess. Like he's a support DPS. He not only has a faction buff, but he also has his talents, which confused some people. But basically what it does is that it chooses 2 allies within 4 blocks of himself, and it can teleport them up to 2 blocks. So that is actually really, really strong, because it just allows you to do all kinds of positioning shenanigans. And Emperor Loviner himself is no slouch. He has a Cav class, which is actually a Terrain Master class. So, the class itself is Terrain Master, so you still have to bring, like, proper soldiers in order to maintain that Terrain Master. So you have to bring, like, Flyer Soldiers or Unicorns to be able to maintain that. You can't bring, normal Cav soldiers and keep the Terrain Master. So aside from that, Emperor Loviner, he has Indomitable, he has a couple AoEs, and his 3C does do heal blocks, so he can be someone that sets up for other people to come and finish everybody off. And he also has Sword Soul, because why not? So basically, I would say, like, compared to Ares, he's also a faction buffer, but he's more tilted towards the support side. He isn't as aggro as Ares is. He does need to set up for a turn, because he needs to use his talent to to do that teleport thing, and then he'll give himself +3 move at 6 stars. And that just makes him like 8 move plus 1 range, 8 move plus his AoEs, which isn't actually that far. So he's more of a support DPS, and he isn't. I think you're supposed to build a team around him, basically. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help myself. I keep calling him Love's Winner. It sounds way too close to that.
Okay.
But I think, this 3C is honestly just disgusting.
Yes.
Yeah, and the amount of stuff it does, it heal blocks you, it provides an attack command, it raises his DR. It's just like, it's about as perfect with 3C as you can create. So I think, I think he's really strong. I don't think he's necessarily like, Demon Matt tier, but I think he has a lot of different options, and he's quite strong.
Yeah, I would say the only downside to his 3C is that the range is kind of small. It's 2 blocks within 2 blocks around himself. I guess you can use Balance Blade to make it bigger if you want to use him as like a setup character, because heal block is always OP. Yeah, and I think the Cav class is just better in every way, because it's like, it is a Cav, so it gets stonewalled by Lancers as usual, but 5 move, Terrain Master, can still use swords, so I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he also has Sword Dance, because I guess like if you decide you want a second turn of heal block, you can also bring Sword Dance on him in addition to his 3C. Okay, so let's talk about his faction for a second. He has Protagonist, Strategic Masters, and Tensei. Protagonist is like, okay, he's the protagonist buffer now. Like Matthew kind of sucks. Strategic Master is like, okay, nobody really uses Lamford. Ultimiller can be okay. Like Ultimiller's buff is still pretty strong. But if you're looking to play a very aggressive game, I don't think Ultimuller is that good. He's usually used more for tank push style games. And finally, I have Tensei. Tensei, of course, what is there to say? Hilda, of course, is really strong. And Ares works well with him in a box anyway. If you put him in a box, like, usually, I think a lot of times he will be faction buffing.
I mean, I think it depends because, like, let's say you want to run like an AoE team, you could always pick like a mass attack and then have the second AoE from Sword Stance or something. So I think he has some options.
Yeah, that's true. And then, the other thing is that, like, as mentioned before, he does have Indomitable. So, like, you could just, like, yeet him in with his 3C. Even if someone tries to kill him, you could just Sword Dance. Like, you're going to have a chance to Sword Dance, unless it's someone who can, like, kill past revives. Pretty much nobody uses those characters. Like, the characters that can kill past revive are, it's...
Like, Shinobi users.
Well, there's, like, Clotaire. Well, yeah, there's Shinobis, like, you can use Clotaire, but, like, Clotaire doesn't work that well. Wataru wouldn't be able to kill him because Wataru is infantry and nobody uses Ryo. So so I don't think he has a lot to worry about if you just like throw him in with his revive. Yeah,
I mean, it's funny because I saw he kind of came out and then I think the sentiment was, wow, he's so good. And then I feel like that kind of like really disappeared and I was kind of like, oh, I think he's pretty good still,
Yeah. So in terms of like team building around him, I've been thinking about it and like, there hasn't been that many new protagonist characters added for a while.
Yeah.
And of course, the big one, of course, was Wet Ham. But Wet Ham can buff himself. Not that he minds getting like the extra damage from Loviner's buff. But when I think about like all the other protagonist characters, like
Elma,
I wouldn't be surprised if they made Emperor Loviner protagonist just to make protagonist fans shut up about how lackluster Elma feels. I would say he's more of a rush character. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so like you would want to be using like the aggro characters with them, which protagonists, of course, like I said, like Ares, of course, is good. You have Wet Ham. Wataru is still pretty good at aggro, although he is infantry, so he has a problem there. Elwin, of course, is still good. We know SPD Hard is coming, and SPD Hard probably works okay. So I think... I
mean, you still always have Matt Yeet. You can just throw a sprint on him and summon, and then just, have like 5 different heal blocks.
Yeah, and, of course, there's still Rain and Sakura, who still have their place. I think, like, Sakura, like, I think some people crap on Sakura a lot, but, like, Sakura, I feel like she's still okay. She has decent reach if you, like, with Hyaka, plus if she has boots. Like, she does okay.
That
Lambda is okay too, yeah. But my biggest problem with Lambda is that she needs to stand next to someone. Like, that's always been my biggest problem with positioning her properly. When I use Lambda, it's like it's like when you're rushing, like sometimes you spread your units all over the place, and that actually like is very troublesome for Lambda.
Well, the nice thing though is if you have this many heal blocks, then she can probably still yeet anyways without being next to someone.
Yeah, and I was about to mention Mariandel, but then I forgot like Mariandel actually isn't protagonist because they decided. Oh
yeah, that's right.
They just like that's the random thing, right? Like because Sage of the Trees, Werner, Mariandel, none of them are protagonists, and then randomly like Emperor Loviner's protagonist again. So it's like, what? Okay, sure, whatever's long.
I mean, that would be the most like protagonist thing ever if they made the protagonist buffer, the second one, like not a protagonist for some reason.
Let's see, who else did they add? Oh yeah, they added Liza, and like Liza, like she's no good in PvP. Like she's kind of interesting, but like I guess I'll talk about her in the future. But like Liza is like no good for PvP. And I guess finally they did add Saint of the Ark, which I guess if you have nothing else to say about Emperor Loviner here, we can talk about Saint of the Ark.
Sure.
So Saint of the Ark, of course, is another protagonist character. So I guess they're kind of moving on to trying to help out protagonists now. At least a little bit.
I hope so, because like it's by far the worst faction in the game.
I guess it's arguable, but yeah, like protagonist is definitely like it's down there. So Saint of the Ark, I mean, you say they're trying to help protagonists, but Saint of the Ark I don't think helps them that much. So Saint of the Ark basically is just Bozal again. But the problem I have with her is that essentially, like, it's like she's Bozal before he got his 3C, which improved his range significantly. That's kind of my general thought on it. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just kind of like another Lico / Bozal type. I feel that there's a lot of these units, and I don't know if, like, I don't think she's bad per se, but like, I don't know if she's like worth using over like a bunch of other people per se.
My biggest problem with her is, like, I mentioned Bozel without his 3C because I mostly noticed her lack of movement. That's really my problem with her. She has 3 move, and once she transforms, she has +1 move. She does do a lot of debuffs, and I guess the interesting thing is that, like, Protagonist faction didn't really have any, like, debuff spammer characters before now. So she is unique for them in that sense, and she's Protagonist plus Mythical, which is actually a pretty big pileup for Protagonist. There's actually a surprising number of Protagonist plus Mythical characters. Includes, like, Reen.
Reen, Lambda,
Almeida, if you want to counter, I guess. Like, Almeida does do AoEs and do debuffs, so, you know.
But it is nice that they have some overlap there, because I do think Oldius does work well with Protag boxes.
Yeah, for sure. Because, like, Protagonist boxes tend to have a lot of pile up on, like, Legend or Glory faction a lot of times, so a lot of times you can throw Landius in as well. And, of course, Old Landius works well with that. So it's kind of interesting because Protagonist now has, I think, a decent amount of choices for both single target and AoE, so you can kind of choose which route you want to go. And with Emperor Loviner kind of being able to do both, and some of the strongest units like Wet Ham being able to do both as well, like there's some flexibility in how you can build a Protagonist box.
Yeah, and I do think, for Saint of the Arc, I do think that the transform is interesting, but it's significantly more interesting if you have a teleport. Just because I think her range is troublesome, right? And you want if you have the ability to just kind of yeet her right into the middle of a bunch of enemies, then it's pretty destructive. But otherwise, it's a little tough to use, I think. Yeah,
and there's also like this whole thing where like transform is about to end. She like explodes basically.
Yeah,
and like it's pretty funny because like it does reach across the entire map, like on the lanes that it says it hits. And it also hits your own units, so it's just such a weird gimmicky skill. And I'm just kind of imagining. Yeah. I'm kind of imagining because like I kind of feel like Saint of the Arc seems to be more designed for a tank push situation where you just debuff enemies and annoy them. Not only does it disrupt your enemies, like if your enemy wants to get out of the way, they have to really disrupt your formation, which can be pretty useful. But it also does it to you, so I don't know how useful that is.
Yeah, it's definitely a really weird skill.
Yeah. And one thing I don't like about her compared to Licorice is that Licorice is like she's versatile, right? Like Licorice, like in a tank push situation, she can be a healer basically, an AoE healer especially, and she can do debuffs and AoE if you need to. Saint of the Arc isn't like that. She's just full in on AoEs, and she can't do single target either because she's like okay at single target, I guess.
Well, I mean, Reaper is like skinny guy abs. You know, if you have Reaper, you automatically are half decent. But yeah, her soldier boost is only 15%. Yeah,
she doesn't have a whole lot of defensive options. She doesn't have Lancer troops like a lot of these, like Kertesz or Kruger do have. Like, and that's really useful when you're playing tankless or rushing. She just has Crystal Warlock. That's pretty much her only tanky soldier, I would say. She does have Skeleton Knights, but does anybody actually use those anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think. I mean, like, you could slap a bracer on her, I guess, but, like, I don't know what that really does. And, yeah, I don't think she's really living through anything.
Yeah, and I think that's why, like, you've been seeing Saint of the Arc being placed kind of either in the middle or just the lower mid of a lot of tier lists, is because she's not like terrible or anything. It's just that she just seems very unremarkable. She doesn't have enough range to justify using her in a rush. She's not tanky enough to be able to be self-sufficient in a tank push. She does have a lot of debuffs, and she could probably do a pretty decent damage. And but she just doesn't seem to fit like well into like any specific strategy right now, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of just like Mariandel all over again, but worse somehow.
Yeah, I would say Mariandel is actually better than Saint.
Yeah, but Mariandel's definitely better, but it's like Mariandel's like, yeah, that all sounds nice, but it's like, doesn't really do anything.
Mm-hmm. She does fit into boxes with Mariandel pretty well. Is a mythical princess.
I mean, it's just the trouble is that, you know, it's becoming increasingly harder to just run really squishy units that aren't disgustingly OP. Yeah. And now we're getting things like, as we talked about earlier, with like Kroger and Kertesz, like we have like units that have just as much utility and are reasonably pretty bulky.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the other thing is that her transform is not an act again, which is actually a really big problem.
Yeah.
So like even compared to Licorice, like Licorice is an act again, except you get to move 0, right? But when you use that alongside, say, Luna, like Luna lets her move another 2 blocks after transforming, and Saint of the Arc cannot do that, which is actually a really big problem. So like that's the other thing. Like if you decide to do like a Princess Rush box and you want to do like a Luna Rush, want to take the 2 blocks before and after you do an act again, Saint of the Arc can't do that. Even Lico could do that. So that's a problem.
Yeah. You would think new units would be better, but here we are.
Yeah, I don't know what they were going for here. Like maybe she can be helped with a exclusive as always, but I think there's going to needs to be a lot of effect on the exclusive to be useful.
Yeah, again, like, you know, I do think all OC units, it is very viable to hope for an utterly broken unique, because, you know, like 8 out of 10 of them or something stupid like that are like, unless you're Varash, you get like a crazy good unique. But like, I don't know what they could give her that would like fix, because it's like her issues. It's not that her kit's bad, but like her issues are just so glaring, and they're not really things that uniques fix, unless the unique is like she gets 50% DR unconditionally or something.
Okay, so I guess that's Saint of the Arc. Do you have anything you want to add here about these 4 characters before we move on?
No, I've exhausted all my thoughts on them.
All right, so let's move on to the new SP hero that was added alongside Elma and Kertesz. Finally, they add an R SP character, which is SP Lewin. So SP Lewin has actually been landing himself on pretty high on a lot of tier lists, which I'm actually kind of surprised by. I'm still kind of like not sure about how to respond to that, because I don't know how much I agree with that placement, because I do see how SP Lewin can be useful. Like, I just don't see him being useful enough to justify like that high of a placement, but I don't know what you think of that.
I mean, I do think his placement's a bit high. But I mean, I think there are certain comps where, I mean, he's certainly fine to use, but I mean, I think that, you know, there's a lot of units that I would call fine. So I think I would say he's like viable, but viable just means like he's certainly a DPS option, not that he's like, you know, crazy or anything.
Okay, so let's just, so I guess I'll just take a moment out here and just like talk a little bit about what SP Lewin actually gained. So first of all, his stats, of course, went up a lot. He doesn't have R stats anymore, but his stats are like still kind of unimpressive in the sense that his HP, defense, and I believe his attack are all lower than Elwin's Lancer class.
Correct.
And that doesn't have to be a bad thing, because his talent does give 30% attack and defense, so he probably ends up more. He probably ends up being tankier than a Lancer Elwin. He does do less damage than a Lancer Elwin, probably, because, you know, attack instead of damage is always kind of a problem. His talent has become a dual phase skill. You know, as long as he's doing like single target battles, he will restore 30% HP after battle. His soldier bonus also changed, which was to be expected. His attack bonus on his soldiers actually went down, but it doesn't matter, because like he gets attack from his talent now, so it's overall it's an increase. So that's
he also got an AOE. So
yeah, and I guess we can talk about that. Like, so in this patch, not only did they add SP Lewin, but they simultaneously added his exclusive as well as the 3C. So I guess I'll start by talking about like his new skills first from his SP class. So the 1C is a marking skill, kind of like Sigma's Ranger's mark. You can choose to mark either an enemy or an ally, and it'll have a different effect depending on which one you do. Whichever one you choose, they will give +2 move to Lewin, and I kind of feel like that's the most useful effect out of these. The one that marks enemies, it also gives Lewin himself attack command, essentially. And it makes it so that the enemy that is marked will lose a buff anytime they're attacked, and restore HP to whoever attacks them. So when you combine these two effects together, it's very similar to Rosalia's Sword of Protection when you think about it. Because Rosalia's Sword of Protection, of course, increases the stats of your allies that are inside it, and also allows them to heal themselves when they attack. So Lewin's mark on the enemy basically gives these same effects, except the ranges are a little bit different and the effects are slightly different. And if you decide to mark an ally with Lewin instead, what it does is that it actually prevents that ally from doing anything. They can't move or attack anymore. But they gain what is very similar to a Desperate Prayer effect, except of course it's modded off Lewin's attack rather than his intelligence. I think 9 times out of 10 you're going to be using the enemy mark. The ally mark doesn't sound that useful to me, except... I guess there's some situations where you might be able to cast it on a tank or something. It's a very strange skill, but I feel like the main function of this is really just to give him the +2 move. The other effects from it are nice, but not super useful.
Yeah.
And his 2C, I think, is just like... I think it's a complete waste. It's just like... It's basically Sword Soul, except instead of doing heal block, it's damage dealt minus 20%, which is just like... Like, of all the debuffs you could have given him, like, why that one? You know, it is a 1.8 times damage skill, which is nice, but it's still just one of those things where I'm just like, why did they give it, like, the worst debuff ever?
I think the best part about the 2C is the icon, because it's like, I don't know why Lewin is destroying what looks like a dragon birdman, but...
Yeah, sometimes the icons are pretty funny, like, and he also got his 3C. So his 3C makes him immune to Curse of Wounding and Heal Reversal, which is nice. I mean, you know, he is like a sustain style character, so it's nice to have that. And then it's an AoE, which is very strange, right? Because, well, his talent does have attack plus 30% no matter what. Like, it's just attack 30% all the time, so he doesn't need to worry about the AoE not getting powered up by his talent, at least. Yeah, but it's just like, it is an AoE that creates terrain, that dispels an enemy buff, and then does fixed damage. I would say this is a pretty good AoE, and the terrain effect is really nice too. But my only problem with this is just like, why did they give him an AoE when like none of the rest of his kit was AoEs?
Actually, I think an AoE is better than getting in like a crazy single target skill, because I actually think, I think like if he, like, let's say he got like Sword Soul Plus, like, does that really matter?
That's a good point. And this 3C is like actually so good that a bunch of people run clock on Lewin just so they can try to spam this thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the only reason to be running clock on him, because like clocking his single target skills can be nice too, but it's mainly just to clock this one skill, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not very keen on his high placement on the list, because I feel like a lot of times I see Lewin being played as like they're kind of relying on this 3C a lot, and relying on clock for just this one skill is always like really risky. Not that he needs the clock to be able to be useful. It's just that like it's kind of like putting all your eggs in one basket almost.
I mean, I don't think it's as good, but how is that any different than like, let's say like Reen, or like the whole reason you run like clock on like Florentia? The nice thing though is that Lewin is a little bit more difficult to kill now. Like, I think obviously magic, but if you ban out magic, he's very difficult to take down physically.
The simple fact that he's a Lancer class is an advantage, right? Because there's so many calves running around, and infantries have a lot of trouble with all these calves as well. And there's just not that many Lancer characters in general, so people don't prep for Lancer enemies as much. The Lancers that were popular were, of course, Arianrod, who has kind of fell off. Nobody really uses her that much anymore. Brenda, I think is okay still, but like I think a lot of times if people use Brenda nowadays, they actually use her in her calf class just so she can have extra move.
Yeah, I mean, Elwin before SP, but I mean, with the amount of defense he gets, he is legitimately hard to take down through physical. So if you're able to ban out magic, so that's kind of the other thing, is that like if you're in a situation where you're able to ban out magic, then Lewin being high on the tier list makes a lot of sense.
I guess in that sense, like you can compare it to like say Bernhard. Like it's not like Bernhard can't tank magic at all, but that didn't stop him from being like really really good.
Yeah.
I guess my only problem with his soldier choices is that he doesn't have the sustained soldier choices like werewolves or anything like that, but he does have he already had pretty good soldier choices. He had phalanx, which of course keep him moving tankier. He had mass maids, which are just really good. Amazons, those are good. Tidal elves might be useful once in a while. And he did get the new soldier, which is Desert Mercenary, which are really, really strong. And they complement his Lancer class pretty well. So yeah, like Lewin is kind of it's one of those things where it's like when you first looked at Lewin, like it didn't seem like he was that impressive, but when you take it as a whole and you consider the meta that exists, then yeah, he does have a place in it. So I do think he's useful. I just don't know if I agree with like the high placement he gets.
Well, but the other thing though too is that he does have the Elwin-esque, like the regular Elwin-esque regen. So like he doesn't need regen soldiers like a werewolf because he just has it in his talent. So all of his soldiers are already.
Yeah. I guess the last thing we didn't mention yet is like his exclusive. Not a whole lot to say here aside from that it gives him damage dealt plus 10%, which is nice because he didn't have any damage in his kit. And also lets him get buffed by Legion of Glory, which is pretty huge because he only had Origins of Light, which is a pretty dead faction right now. Legion of Glory, Elwin is getting his 3C in the same patch as Lewin SP is getting added, so that he is usually run in Glory boxes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
which is of course centered around Elwin most of the time. Glory just has so many. Glory is just pretty good at like single target rush right now, I think. Like you have Elwin, you have Helena,
Sherry.
People even throw like Leon in there, even though like he's not Glory, but like he kind of synergizes well.
Ares,
yeah, and he just like helps balance out that box pretty well with the Lancer soldier, with the Lancer choice. Yeah, so even when I first saw his kit, I was just like, he doesn't look that good, but I guess this is another one of those cases where it's just like he just kind of fit very comfortably into a specific niche in the meta.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good lesson in just how certain ways the meta bends can make units a lot better or worse.
Yeah, and I know like Lewin is a pretty popular R character, so like I don't know. Do you think they're gonna do any more R SPs?
Yeah, I mean, I won't say no, but I don't think it's high on their list of priorities.
I would laugh if they did Jessica SP.
That I'd be fine with. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Yeah,
get another Jessica in the meta. The only other one that gets requested a lot is Letitia. People really request for Letitia to get SP a lot because she's still popular.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it's like people are like, oh, like SP Anna would be OP, and it's like, well, the OP part about her is her talent, which changes. So is that really OP? Like unless they just make the talent the same but better. Which I mean, with units like
that's
Anna,
that's just Chris.
Yeah, because like units like someone like Lewin, like his talents is a better version, but like there was room to make it better. Like, what do you do with like Letitia? Like now you get +2 movement. Like that
would be
very
OP.
balanced, so that
would be super OP if they did that to Letitia.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like I don't know.
It's possible with an SP Letitia, what they would do is that they would probably just keep her movement boost skill the same, but improve her personal performance so it doesn't feel like you're just playing 4 units against 5. Letitia just sort of attacks stuff and then like dies while attacking or something most of the time. And I don't know, Loomis, I kind of figured you would want to see SP Dios.
I mean, nothing can save that kit, to be honest. It's so bad.
I don't even remember what he has.
He basically he can apply like every debuff in the game, every basic debuff. He also can, with an Uller's bow, hit the middle tower and auto chest from base. That's about the nicest thing I can say about Dios.
He has aim. There's hope. He has aim.
Yep. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Like, his kit is just so poor. I mean, I guess you get a 3C plus 2 skills. So there's just 3 new skills. So you don't have to use any of the old ones unless aim's fine. Maybe, you know what? If they just made stupid 3C and like a stupid 2C, then SPDOs could be saved.
Yeah, I mean, that's often what happens, isn't it? Like, with the SP characters, a lot of times, like, they don't even use their base kit anymore. They just use, like, the new skills.
Yeah.
It really depends, right? Like, if the base kit was already really OP, like Elwin, obviously he just kept using Sword Soul anyway. But, with someone like Lewin, of course, he got his 3C, he got a new 1C, and the 2C is just, like, whatever you choose to use, I guess.
Yeah. Like, defense command. To make him harder to kill against his.
Sure.
Yeah, that wasn't a joke.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about Lewin is like his kit was already pretty good, like in terms of skills. It was pretty workable. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see like what they do if they do another R SP.
Yeah, it's like because like I'd much prefer the R if they're gonna go back to the R well, I'd much prefer ones with like interesting kits. So like Lester or Pierre because they have chain hook and other stuff, or like Laird actually has a decent base. Like he has like 1,000 Who's and stuff. Jessica has really good skills. So
yeah, Jessica has teleport, which that itself is already like pretty okay.
Yeah, she has teleport, mass heal, and medium.
Yeah,
like damn.
And yeah, like you said, like Pierre would be pretty interesting too because he has like a combination of plunder and like tidal surge and chain hook. These are all like very interesting things to have on a character.
Yeah, like that's the direction I prefer them to go rather than like like having like another Elwin clone, but Elwin clone OP.
All right, anything final you want to add here about Lewin?
No.
All right, so I guess we can move on to talking about these 3Cs, the final batch of 3Cs they added in the Elma Kertesz patch. Of course, they added Lewin's 3C to round out the two final 3Cs they didn't add yet. I guess we won't talk much about Lewin's 3C because we already sort of talked about it while talking about Lewin. So I guess we can start by talking about Elwin. We mentioned this earlier. Elwin got Elwin got a 3C, and it's boring but practical. It's like as uncreative as you can get as far as Elwin's 3C goes. It's just like it's a faction buff on a passive, and it's basically like Sword Soul plus Frontal Assault at the same time in the active portion. Couple things to note about this, I guess, is that being that Elwin now like has the passive as the faction buff, where like he just casts it at the start of a battle and then casts it again every time someone dies. It is a pretty big deal because I think even right now, like on global, people have already seen that there's a lot of games where people just engage on the first turn, and being able to have the buff already up without you needing to do any input is actually very, very useful. And the fact that Sword Soul and Frontal Assault is combined into one is actually a pretty big deal because it means you might dispel their guard range and also apply passive block at the same time, which means they cannot passively guard their the tank can't passively guard anymore either. So that's pretty.
Yeah, cool. It's basically it's like a Brenda Main's wet dream.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything really to say about this 3C like that isn't obvious. Like it's uncreative, but it is very good.
I mean, I think we all knew this was exactly what it was going to be. I think the only surprising part is that they combined the Frontal Assault part, but I think we all knew it had to be. Because obviously you want to have the Reign of Glory or whatever the 2C is, so you needed to combine Faction Buff and Sword Soul in some way. So, this is pretty obvious.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. So Angelica. So Angelica's 3C is just like, Angelica is just this combination of a bunch of gimmicky skills, and they've continued in that trend. It is basically like a mass heal, but it has like a very large span. It has a 4 span, so it heals quite a few allies at once. And it has a 50% chance to cause just random side effects on the people you heal. You can only apply one of these side effects at a time. It can be a random combination of them across different characters, but it just means that you can only have one of them applied when you cast it on each character. So one of them makes it so that gives them Terrain Master and makes them walk through enemies. One of them increases their damage dealt and damage taken. One of them decreases their damage dealt, but also their AoE damage taken. And final one just says can't be displaced. All these effects can be useful. The problem is that it's just randomized. So it's just like, this is just like really gimmicky. But it's not even the useful kind of gimmicky, I feel like, which is what her reconfiguration skill was. Like reconfiguration was actually like, you could actually use it for some useful things. This one is like too random, I feel like, to be useful in any way.
It's just too meme.
It's pretty much just there to like as a joke skill. It feels like A for creativity, but I just do not see this being useful.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it is a nice heal. Like it is a pretty large heal because I believe this is this has one turn cooldown. So this actually makes Angelica an okay AoE healer, I guess. But I don't know how useful that is, because if you were putting Angelica in your box, you probably were bringing her for some kind of gimmick strategy, like reconfiguration, or you want another time buffer for some reason. So that does you can't fit all these things into the same kit.
I will note though, because you could run 2 heals on her, because she also has mass heal and always have a mass up, but also this skill has a 50% chance to clock too in 3C.
Yeah.
So you could run double heal buff if you wanted, or you could run double heal with the that other weird skill she has.
She has reconfiguration as the 1C, and she also has the one where she summons she blows up your soldiers and summons something.
Yeah, well, that one, yeah. Unless you have one of 3 specific units, that one's useless. But the reboot one, that was interesting.
Yeah, the reconfiguration, the one that changes your class. Yeah. I mean, basically, I would say you can't bring double heal if you want her faction buff for some reason, or if you want her to mass attack. That's the interesting thing about Angelica is she kind of has a kit where it's she has all the support skills to make her actually pretty useful if you wanted to use her.
Yeah.
I think you'll still see her around once in a while, because she is one of those characters where it's just she has those skills where it's just it's on the borderline of being useful, where some people will use her and just try to surprise some people.
Yeah.
But I don't think this 3C changes that much in that regard, just because it's just another heal, basically. You wouldn't use it for the bonus effects. Although it would be pretty funny if this bonus effect decided a game at some point, but it probably won't.
Yeah, I mean, someone's going to show a clip where it does and be like, oh, look, she's OP.
I don't think anybody ever makes those clips other than just as a joke. Okay. Oh, well, if you don't have anything else to say, we'll just skip over Lewin's 3C here.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So, that's the final 3Cs. So far, it's been 2 months since then. They haven't really done anything extra since then. I mean, they've been kind of ramping up what they've been doing with the Farmville mode, which I'll mention later. But yeah, aside from that, that's the last 3Cs. We're finally done with them. So I guess we could... Hooray. So now we can talk about exclusives. So again, I guess we'll kind of skip over Lewin's exclusive. We kind of already mentioned it. So on the Elma and Kertesz patch, they added Werner and Epsilon's exclusives, and in the Loviner and Saint of Arc patch, they added Listell and Sissi White's exclusives. So let's start with a Werner's sword here. The sword is okay. I kind of feel like Werner has so many options for his sword. There is that one lance that increases damage dealt for every block you move, and also can break guard. I don't know if people consider that better or this better. I think some people have said they prefer this one. I don't know what you think. I actually kind of like the lance more, because that lance gives damage, which is what Werner lacks. But I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, he's not completely devoid of damage. I think this is probably just easier, because if I remember correctly, the lance is kind of weirdly gimmicky. This is pretty just consistent.
So the lance, what it was is that it also gives attack plus 10% as the stat, and then it says for every block moved, you will get plus 2% damage up to 10%. So you have to move at least 5 blocks to get 10% damage, which on Werner really shouldn't be an issue, I think. Which is why I kind of feel like that lance can be pretty good for Werner.
So, but the other issue though is that it's 22 less base attack.
Yeah.
And the defense ignore, I think, is actually probably just better than damage.
Okay.
Depending on what you hit, though.
Yeah, it depends on the target, right? If it's a really tanky, defensively tanky unit, then you probably want this sword.
Because the cannot be guarded thing is not useful in this case, because ideally Werner kills, but even if he doesn't, that unit's not guarding anyways.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that part doesn't matter. I was just thinking about the damage plus 10% basically versus the defense ignore. Yeah,
because I believe the unique caps out at 10% defense ignore, or is it uncapped?
As far as I know, this thing is uncapped.
I thought I heard it might have been 10, but if it's uncapped, then that's even better then.
I will say, like, I'm not sure because I haven't seen any tests for it, but usually if there's a cap, they mention it on the item itself.
But I mean, I think the unique is it's it's an improvement. I think it's.
I mean, as far as Werner goes, like his weapons were pretty much just like what is it, like Seal Guardian or like
a blue star.
A blue star, I see. So yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say about this sword is that it doesn't fix any of Werner's weaknesses. I think because Werner's biggest weakness, of course, was Lancer soldiers, and this does not help him at all against those.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess it helps him against like high defense targets, so that's nice. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So next we have Epsilon's sword, which, wow, what a crazy exclusive this is.
This one's really good.
Yeah, this one's nuts. Like, okay, so this one, first of all, it just straight up ignores class effects. So he just like, so Epsilon can run demon class without any downsides anymore. Well, he can still get stunned by like Shelf and Ale, I guess, but yeah, that's basically it. So when a unit dies, he dispels one debuff from himself, restores 30% HP, and then he gets a shield that says the next attack will do minus 80% damage, and I don't believe this wears off. So, yeah, like it makes Epsilon just a really good follow-up character. Somebody else can rush in first, and if they die, Epsilon will have a shield, and it'll be a lot harder to kill him. And in general, it just makes Epsilon a lot better at killing stuff because, of course, up until now he had class disadvantage in some cases. Whether it was him trying to kill like cavalries or kill holy units, depending on which class you're running. But he doesn't have that problem anymore. This I would say the only thing this is missing is just like it doesn't improve Epsilon's movement, which was I guess one of his weaker points, but. He doesn't need the movement as much now because, like, he can kind of survive a lot better with this thing.
Yeah, and not that we knew this when the unique was launched, but afterwards he gets the OP new demon soldiers as well, who also don't have the class disadvantage applied to them now, so he becomes like a crazier user of those that are very, very strong.
The zombies.
Yeah.
The zombies. We're not going to talk about them today, but yeah, those zombies are pretty strong. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just makes Epsilon just a lot better.
Yeah. Not a whole lot to say here. Is like I think this weapon kind of speaks for itself. I guess we can talk about the Loviner and Saint of the Ark exclusive, which is Listell and the Sissi White. Listell's helm is just a huge disappointment to me. Just like it is very similar to Nord's crown, which is what she's been using up until now. I think it just makes it so that she does an art debuff when she does damage. Magic damage dealt minus 20%, which is a very strange debuff for her to be doing. It's not the worst debuff because, I mean, she does have magic guard, so I guess this makes sense with that, but I just don't... Like, how many people were running Listell as a magic tank or something? So it's just very strange. I don't think this is very useful at all.
It's just worse than yours because Listell's virtually always going to have higher HP. So she gets 15%, and it's so she's giving up 5% for the debuff in exchange, and I just don't know if that's that useful.
I mean, the debuff is nice if you're going for like debuff overloads as usual, but I don't think you need Listell to contribute that much to that. I mean, I kind of feel like Listell's 3C is pretty OP. Like if you're going for like a really slow game, like you don't really need the extra debuff on top. I feel like. When I've played around with Listell's 3C, I kind of feel like if it's a game where, like, if I can get Listell close enough to actually cast a 3C, that kind of ends the game. If you pick ban in a way where Listell is actually doing what she's supposed to be doing, like that, like letting her get the 3C off pretty much ends the game.
Yep. Unless they're just fighting just like the weirdest comp, but yeah, she's once she slowly gets in range, she's pretty much a game over button.
So I guess we can finish off with last but not least is Sissi White's helm, which is really nice. Like I mean, like I think this is a lot of what people expected out of Sissi White's helm, except I think it was even better than what people expected because I think a lot of people were expecting just like maybe like one extra coin at the start of battle or maybe like one extra coin every now and then, but no, this gives on average at least one extra coin every turn, and sometimes it will give two. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like sometimes on the first turn you will immediately have 4 coins. I don't know, it lets you do like long-term investment plus summon a tank on the first turn if you want to. You can have act again by the second turn. That's guaranteed because like it is a 50% chance to get 2 coins on the first turn, and then like 100% chance to get 2 coins on the next turn if you don't get it the first turn. So you are guaranteed the act again by the second turn. Yeah, like it's pretty much everything Sissi White could have asked for, I feel like.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I think it's pretty strong.
Yeah, and like Sissi White, like I think even without the exclusive, I would say she was already really good. Like I've played around with her a little bit. I think she's really good. She's a really interesting healer because like she kind of has like she's almost like partially a tank slot when you put her in her box because she does have the Lancer tank.
Yeah, I mean she's pretty versatile.
Yeah, and she has like all these strange kind of gimmicky skills. Her biggest problem is that she's kind of slow paced compared to a lot of the other healers. Like Liana and Florentia are ready to go on the first turn. Rosenseal, of course, is like she's Rosenseal. But yeah, like. Not a lot to say. Okay, so next we have new soldiers. So we got so they've been adding 2 new soldiers each patch. So let's start with the Elma Kertesz patch. So first they added these desert mercenaries. These are really, really OP. Like these are some of the strongest infantry soldiers they've ever added, I feel like.
Yeah.
So they have not only are their base stats just really good, they have high attack, high HP. They have attack, so their skill gives them attack, defense, magic defense plus 20%, and after taking action, restore 20% HP. So they have some sustain, some self-reliance, and if they are standing alone, all the above effects are doubled. And you're probably going to make them stand alone a lot of time anyway, just because you want to activate Solo Striker. The one downside to the Desert Mercenaries is that like the distribution is just like really, really thin. Like they gave it to, I mean, it makes sense. They gave it to characters that probably need help. Alpha, she could use these. Clotaire, Deedlit, Deedlit, like that's really nice because she didn't have like a super strong like offensive infantry choice. She had heavy infantry, which is just okay.
Yep. They're fine, yeah.
Yeah. Rainforce, also used for him. Sakura, like, these are dual phase, so, Sakura could counter for a lot of damage using these. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, so they're basically much better bases, particularly bulk, than mass maids for almost the exact same skill effect. And regen. Yeah, these are crazy OP.
Yeah, they're really strong. And, of course, like, right now the list of characters that can use them is kind of thin, but obviously they're going to be handing these out to a lot of the newer characters, and SB Lewin got them as well, of course. The other one is Night Elf. I would say this is probably, like, out of the year 4 soldiers they've added so far, I would say this is likely the least impressive one. It's not bad. It's just like compare these with Faceless, and it's just like, these are like, they're okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of like,
they're like a marginal improvement. Like they're nice, but it's also like it's just strange that they keep adding these assassin troops to try to help out these like lesser used assassins. Like in this case, they gave it to Dehart, Kirikaze, Puritas, Roga, Shalinka, Suzette, and Tsubame. All these characters, like their problem is not that they don't have an OP enough soldier. Like that's really not a problem with these characters.
Because like almost all of them have Faceless, and Faceless are just better.
I don't know if Faceless are better. Like Faceless, well, they're like a side grade, like, right? Because Faceless do crit evasion reduction, which is sometimes better if you want to like have a very reliable crit rate. But Night Elves have crit damage. So if you do crit, then Night Elves do more damage.
Which is nice, but I think in just given what's out there, I think the Faceless faction is just better.
Yeah. And plus like we know that SPD Hard is coming like a couple months later, and it's like, he's not going to be using 3 move soldiers.
Yeah.
Kirikaze is not going to be using this. Like, if he's using like an assassin soldier, they're probably going to be like samurais. I mean, Puritas, I guess Puritas might get some use out of these, and Tsubame.
Yeah. Suzette having these is hysterical because, like, what the hell is she going to do with them? I
mean, Suzette does have a repost. Like, sometimes she uses that, but yeah, it's kind of weird. How about a soldier that, like, I mean, I guess we don't want this, but like ignores crit negation? I don't know if that would be a good idea, because you don't want to get into that situation where it's like you start adding stuff that negates negation, and then like you just have
that does sound like a slippery slope.
that gets really when games start doing that, it gets pretty annoying. So like I don't like, that would be nice, but yeah. Okay, so the 2 soldiers they added for the Emperor Loviner and Saint of the Ark patch for the Mechanical Dragon Knight and Siege Ballista. So Mechanical Dragon Knights are, in my opinion, these are like really, really good. So basically, these are like slightly weaker than Griffin Knights in terms of attack and defense. They have like really good bases. Their bases are very similar to Griffin Knights. But they have attack and defense plus 25% all the time. They have no HP requirement, and they also have when melee attacked, so physical damage taken minus 25%. So like this is only when you're attacked and only in melee. So it's kind of a narrow use, but it is kind of a nice option if you feel like you're playing a specific game where you're dealing with melee attackers. So they gave this to like some pretty good like physically tanky DPS characters like Altmiller, Angelina, Emperor Loviner, Emmerich, yeah. Like all of these characters, like they're pretty good at taking physical hits. So if you are in the right situation, I think these are like really, really strong. Like they just won't die.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think having DR, even though it's conditional, in a situation like this is really good. So I think it's a very good option. Especially if you run like Altmiller or Emmerich, I think or even for Love's Winner, you gotta build them.
Yeah, like Loviner has the damage reduction after he uses his 3C, right? So like you combine it with this, could be pretty nice if you pick ban right. Get rid of magic, get rid of ranged attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are pretty tanky, and Toa gets these as well. Toa's pretty tanky too. And even for the non-tanky characters, these might be able to save them once in a while. Like Matthew, it might be nice for him. Varna might be nice for her.
Anything with last rights potentially.
Yeah. So yeah, just a very interesting side raid. Like, and they're just useful as a general use. I feel like because their attack and defense bonus is unconditional. There's so many soldiers where you need to have an HP threshold, or it's only when attacking.
That's the problem with Griffins.
Yeah, something like this where it's just like 25% attack defense all the time. Like it's, you'll counter for more damage, or like if you're like in a slugfest and you're low on HP, you'll still be able to do decent damage. It's pretty nice. Okay, so the final one we gotta talk about is Siege Ballista. So this one, I guess they realized that catapults suck, so they just straight up added a better range +1 soldier. So like not only do these give attack bonus, but like they get an even larger attack bonus if you don't move before attacking. And if you move over 3 blocks, you'll deal less damage. But that's just like, well, catapults just do less damage all the time, so that's really not that big a deal. Basically, the only thing I think they're missing compared to catapults is that they don't do that random chump debuff that you probably don't care about.
Unless it's stun.
Do catapults do stun? I don't think they do.
At least in PvE, the enemies do, but maybe not ours.
That's different because like I think that's actually like a skill on the enemies.
Oh.
Like they have a skill called Trebuchet or something that causes the stun. So I don't think they actually have. I don't think they have like the catapult like soldier that I think catapult soldier only does like stat debuffs. They're pretty terrible. Let me think. Like so, it is an archer troop, so like it can be a nice option for some of these characters. Like I think for Young Jessica, they're pretty nice if you still use Young Jessica. They're nice for any of these mages that they gave them to if you need to kill a flyer of some kind.
I think the only 2 units that can really truly use these are Young Jessica and Subame.
I guess you could put them on Wheeler. Like Wheeler, if you like taking pot shots with Wheeler, these can be okay.
True, I guess. Yeah. Because I'm just trying to think, because like those are units that like don't really move.
Yeah, Wheeler and Sissi White. Like if you decide to take pot shots with them, these can be useful. But I guess like nowadays that doesn't happen too often anymore. You usually go with Forest Priest regardless because you really want them to be full support.
Yeah.
But
Fireball Tiaras, pretty dangerous.
My only problem with using these on Fireball Tiaras is that they're 3 move, so like you miss out on the 5 move that Tiaras has. So like if you're rushing with Tiaras, then like obviously it doesn't work that way.
But look, you get the 1 back from the unit range being +1. Ooh. use put on a genius, and you're back, baby.
Well, that's still only 3. Wait, no, because that's still only 3 range, I think, right?
No, because you get +1 from genius, +1 from the siege ballista.
Yeah, but the siege ballista don't give +1 to your skill ranges, so your fireball, fireball is still 2 range.
All right, so you still want to run Sork, so you can do a 3 range, 5 move 3 range.
Yeah. I mean these soldiers, like I think like they're interesting, but I kind of feel like I think this is another soldier where we're waiting for a new hero that is able to use them more effectively.
I agree.
Okay, so I guess that's all we have for the soldiers. There's still, I would say like the year 4 soldiers so far have all been pretty OP. Like even the less impressive ones are still like pretty good. So I guess with that out of the way, we can start talking about some of the content they added in these 2 patches. First, they added a new Covenant, Heimdall. I'm really not gonna say much about Heimdall. Like the only thing I have to say about Heimdall is that like he's a little bit more defense focused than the previous 2 Covenants. He also has like a sort of cheese strat where you can like get stacks with him and then do like a ton of damage, which is something all 3 Covenants can do, I believe. But aside from that, like there's like as far as PvP goes, I believe he gives like more. I believe it was more HP and defense. I think it was, and less attack and intelligence. Which I think most people will not go for. I think most people still go for either Thor or Freya. Thor is the balanced choice right now. He has the highest attack by default, even though he's the balanced choice. And Freya, or like I guess Frigg, it's going to be called Frigg when it comes to global. Frigg has more intelligence. That's what it was.
That one's 45 int, which actually matters a lot.
Yeah. Upgrade him when you get him, but like, yeah, it's not a big change compared to Thor and Frigg, I think.
No, they're free to build, so just build them all.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so after the 3 Cs, now that 3 Cs are over with, like, it's not quite there yet, but like they've been adding more and more stuff to the Farmville mode, the floating city. And so in the Elma and Kertesz patch, they added a slot machine. And in the Emperor Loviner and Saint of Arc patch, they added a clock tower. The clock tower, I don't have a lot to say about it, because the clock tower is basically, it just provides Clock of Forgiveness charges. So players who don't have the Clock of Forgiveness purchased, you now have 1 charge of Clock of Forgiveness when you build this tower. And if you upgrade it all the way to level 6, you'll get 2 charges. It's kind of interesting. Like it does change like the PvE dynamic of the game a little bit. Now that like everybody has at least 1 charge of Clock of Forgiveness, it makes it so that you can use it strategically, right? So it's gonna be interesting. Like it might change the way people make like videos as well. Like it's like you can strategically use the clock at certain points or something. For people who have already purchased the clock, every single level of the clock tower will give you +1 clock use, so you can get +6 clock uses on top of the 9 you already have, so you can get 15. Like 9 was already pretty excessive, I feel like, so this is just I mean, I guess they couldn't really come up with anything else to do with it, so it's just really excessive. I would say the clock tower is most beneficial to players who have never bought the Clock of Forgiveness, which is very useful, for like free-to-play players. Yeah,
that and for like AV mains. But I'm not not kidding. It's OP for AV.
Yeah, that's true. Like, more resets for Ancient Mechanings, of course. Like, roll for that high score. It does make the runs even longer. So if you enjoy that, I haven't run Ancient Beckoning again since it saved scores, I think. Like, I still haven't rerun it. Every time I think about rerunning it, they add something new to the game, and I'm like, I'll wait until that comes out to rerun it.
Yeah.
So going back to the slot machine, which was added during the Elma Kertesz patch. So I'm gonna go ahead and post like a little like sheet I've been keeping myself. So the slot machine starts at 2 rolls per day. You can upgrade it to 6 rolls per day. So these numbers I just posted in the chat window if you want to take a look. This is just me recording my own rolls since it came out. And so I have the times rolled, I have the rate percentage based on the times rolled, and the rightmost column there, that's just my personal guess as to what the figures probably are. So I think it's probably like a 45% chance to roll nothing. You have a 20% chance to get an SR shard, 5% chance to get SR shard, and then like the only numbers on this, I think the numbers are relatively good, except for the ones for the Arc Alchemor and the challenge points. The numbers on that are kind of weird. I don't know what's going on there. It might just be because of the small sample size I have. So I got the numbers all weird.
So are the shards random?
What they are is like, okay, so these are like universal shards. So what they are is like, well, both these shards, basically when you go to click like start up a character, there will be like a label above like the circle that says you have this many universal shards. And it will automatically consume them if you don't have enough shards to upgrade that character. Did I explain that in a way that makes sense?
Yeah. So you can finish off units earlier. That's pretty good.
So like, unlike what some people were hoping, you cannot use these to summon characters that you don't have.
Yeah.
You cannot use them. I think they later patched out you being able to use these to get like memory essence. Not that matters. I don't think anybody would use these to obtain memory essence. It's just a thing they patched out. But yeah, like it's interesting because like since you max out at 6 rolls of the slot machine per day, that means like it's pretty reliable to get like 1 SR shard a day, I would say, at those rates. So over time, I think people are going to be able to max out some of the freebie SRs we've gotten, like Shibaraku or Parn. These are, I think these are characters that people have always wanted to play around with a little bit more. So it's kind of cool that there's, I guess, another way to start them up now, instead of like wasting our Gate of Fates on them. So that is an option. The SSR shards are like, just like, according to my rolls, is about 5%. It's just like a nice little bonus. 6 rolls, like I don't know exactly how often you might get one. Like I think you might get maybe, I think at 5% you can expect like on average about 2 of them per week, something like that. I mean, I'm just doing quick math in my head, but like, that's still like, it's still shards that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So I guess it's still nice.
Yeah, because I do think, I think that's such a good point on like the Shibaraku and stuff. Because like he's a unit I would actually build, but I would never get a fade him.
Yeah,
but like, he's actually really OP for chess.
Yeah. So so like the slot machine, I guess the only thing I have to say about slot machine in terms of upgrading it, the buildings that they have been adding since they launched the Farmville mode, you really need to keep up with the Farmville mode to be able to like have the resources to upgrade these in a timely manner, I guess. So don't completely neglect the Farmville mode is what I'm saying. Just like, remember to check it, remember to upgrade your stuff, collect your resources and stuff. And that is especially the case for the patch after these ones. Like we're not going to talk about them today, but like they add like a weapon forge and stuff, and it's actually like
yeah, I did see that.
All right, so I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about this slot machine or the clock tower.
No, I mean it's nice that they're adding stuff like this, just vary the game a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think this stuff is more useful for newer players, and it's always nice to add stuff like that. And the only thing I kind of hate about the slot machine is the challenge points are so rare, and they're in such low amounts. I think challenge points is like one of the biggest problems for newer players and like players who haven't been playing since day one. And like the fact that the challenge points are drop at such a low rate and in such low amounts from the slot machine is just like, it's like how long do you have to like how many times do you have to get it before you can buy one exclusive, which is 150 points, right? Like,
yeah,
it's kind of crazy. So I guess moving on, I guess I'll talk a little bit about the content, and I'll just separate it out into the 2 different patches. So Elma and Kertesz patch. In this patch, they added the 4th Forbidden Battleground run. There's not a whole lot to say about it other than that this is where you get the Heart of Desire for SP Lewin. So you don't need to get it from like the gamble, you don't need to spend crystals on it, you just need to play Forbidden Battleground and you can purchase it. Although in exchange, because the SP Lewin heart is like, it's taking up space in the shop, there is no 3C hearts. There's none of the hearts that you use to upgrade 3Cs, which I think some people still like getting. There's no Aniki materials, which I think they've had before, and so it kind of sucks that there are none of those. So the rewards this time for Forbidden Battleground are pretty crappy, to be blunt. But, you know, like, they do run Fair Arena third run at the same time. So, you know, Fair Arena, of course, gives, like, the crazy rewards like it usually does, like all kinds of, a lot of scrolls, a lot of, like, Mastery Stones and all that. So, so I've just posted in the chat box if you want to take a look at the list of characters.
Yes.
So me personally, like, I didn't play it a whole lot because my connection to the Chinese server is always, like, kind of shaky, so I always find it very frustrating to play PvP on it. But when I played it, I just made a mythic box with Sage and Gizroff, and MVP is in fact Rainforce for me. Like, I used Rainforce and just, like, he just carried the team in a bunch of games. Yeah, I just, like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I don't see a lot of other, like, good teams there, but I don't know. Maybe people will figure it out when it comes out. But you see anything here?
I think it's either Myth or Princess.
Who do you have here? You have Angelina, Clarette.
But you can also run someone like a Brenda.
Yeah, Brenda's good. Yeah, Brenda's good. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a lot to say, there's Fair Arena 3. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say.
Yeah, Fair Arena's Fair Arena.
They added a whole lot more stuff in the Emperor Loviner and Saint of Arc patches, I would say. So first of all, there was a whole host of quality of life changes. So I'll just list off some of them. First, they added a Secret Realm and Arena button to the front page. I don't know, like, I don't know if like you heard about this or I've told you before, but, like, the new front page when you enter the game, it was missing the Secret Realm button and missing the Arena button. So that was it was well, basically there's, like, a front page where you go to the, like, floating city from, and you can also access the old world map from. And they had all kinds of buttons on it except for Secret Realm and Arena, which was really, like, mind-blowing because it's just like those are the two things you do the most throughout the day. So like, you, in order to get to Secret Realm, you would have to either press World Map and then press Secret Realm, or you would have to go to quests and then click on one of the quests where you go to Secret Realm.
Jeez.
Which was just, like, one of those things where it's just like, how did this happen? Yeah, but anyway, they added 2 buttons to that page. So, like, they probably heard that people said, "You guys are idiots. Add these 2 buttons."
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow.
Okay, so some other quality life changes. The guild shop, it no longer limits class material purchases, so you can buy as many class materials as you want. You know, you're not limited by, like, there's no limit on them anymore. You're just limited by the guild points you have now.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's a long requested thing, and it's strange that it was even there to begin with. I mean, it's such a strange limitation, but the annoying thing is that they didn't change. There still is the limitation for the heart bond items, so, like, that's still there.
What?
Yeah, they removed the limit on the class upgrade items, but they didn't remove it for the heart bond items.
Wait, I thought they didn't have a limit for the heart bonds.
Yeah, no, there's a limit. There's a purchase limit of 10.
Oh,
10 times.
I thought there wasn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know. Let's see here. All right, so the bond menu now has a recent tab. So now, like, if you sweep a character's Gate of Fates, they will be put under a recent tab. So you can, like, you don't have to scroll through like 60 characters to find a character you want anymore.
That's good.
There's faction filters on the page now for whatever that's worth. Like, it's nice. Like, so I think the recent tab is the big one. Like, cause, like, you know, sometimes, like, you're just spending, like, forever just trying to find the characters that you were sweeping yesterday or whatever.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So another thing they did was that they adjusted the black market prices. This is actually, like, now some people might be like, you know, who cares? But, like, it actually is a pretty big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because it used to be that, like, for example, SSR scrolls were, like, I think it was like 300,000. They are still 300,000 right now on global. The price is now like 50,000, I believe. Something like that. So now, like, they're totally worth getting. Like, even now, like, there are people who buy the SSR scrolls from the black market, myself included. I buy them sometimes. So lowering the price that much, like, I think they're definitely worth buying now. They also added couple new items, but I think most of them don't really matter. Like they added like a couple like heart bond items. They added like endgame machines, but those cost crystals, so they're not worth getting.
I'd probably get them. I'm kidding.
I know there are some people who would get, like some whales would get them just because they're lazy.
Yeah, and I mean it's free gold, kind of ish.
Yeah. They added a button to the Kingdom of Aurora that lets you go to Covenants. I know that was something that drove people crazy, like that there was no button in Kingdom of Aurora that lets you go to the Covenants.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's so weird.
So they did that. Yeah, I think that is the extent of the quality of life changes I can think of right now. So aside from that, the Loviner Saints patch, they did a read-on of Record of the Lotus War. That's what some people were waiting for. So you can get Parn again, you can get D-Lit again. They did rerun the news board event where you get the Pure shards for free, so you don't need to worry about that. Because sometimes in the previous reruns they've like left out stuff before. They didn't do that this time. They had the Pure shards and and everything. So nothing to say about that. So they added Time Rift 21. So Time Rift 21, it's I don't know. I don't think it's the last chapter of the Wikigrisser 5 story yet. So Wikigrisser 5 Time Rift is actually taking quite a while. And the rare treasure this time is a King's Crown. Not the most rare thing. I think a lot of people have a lot of King's Crowns by now, but I do know there probably are some players who have not, who have been RNG screwed and haven't gotten any King's Crowns. So it's pretty nice. It's better than
that's really good.
It's better than what we just got, which was the Memer's Hammer from Time Rift.
Oh yeah.
Time Rift 19 or whatever. They gave you Memer's Hammer.
20, yeah.
Okay, even people who don't have one don't really want one.
Yeah, it's not really that useful anymore, or ever.
I mean, it's useful if you like being one of those cancerous people that for auto arena.
Oh yeah, arena, yeah.
So aside from that, there's Dimensional Expedition Run 4. Nothing to say about this aside from I don't think I saw them add SB Lewin's Heart of Desire to the shop, which was very strange to me. I don't know why that happened, but it's they usually added all of them. They added the Norm one after they ran it in the roguelike mode, but they didn't do that for this time with Lewin. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe they're just waiting until the next run before they do that, but that was kind of weird. And then there's an obligatory Secret Realm event, and that's about it. The Emperor Loviner and Saint of the Ark patch has a little bit more going on. Mostly just a lot of nice quality of life changes that I think people have been waiting for a while. And I think that's about all I have today. There was a lot to talk about, but thanks a lot for joining me today, Loomis.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you have any final thoughts here about all this stuff coming?
I mean, I think it's nice now that most of the updates are substantive enough that they actually bring something. Because I mean, I think a lot of I'd say this past year even there's been a lot of updates. I'm just kind of there's a new hero or something. But I think starting year 3, it's been pretty strong on the updates. So it's good to see that.
Yeah, I think the only thing people are missing right now is they kind of feel like because 3Cs are over, they kind of want a new core gameplay mechanic added. But I guess they just decided not to do that. I can understand why they decided against that, because you don't want to overload too many mechanics into the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason why we haven't had another level cap raise or something, too. So.
Okay, well, that's all I gotta say today. Thank you again for joining me, Loomis. As always.
Anytime.
Okay, and that's all I got for you guys. Thank you for watching, everyone. See you guys next time. You want to say goodbye there, Loomis?
Oh, yeah, sorry. See you guys.